Hello, listeners. Welcome to yet another episode of Courage Talks, a heavy-headed podcast here. I have a special guest, ultramarathoner, who's done a mind-whopping 46,000 miles of running in his career so far, and he refuses to stop. Welcome, Trishul Cherns, all the way from Canada.
Thank you very, very much, Hitol, and it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So as you know, my podcast Courage Talks is based on my book, which is Against All Odds, which describes my father's story of courage. And, he was a normal person, but he went through a lot of challenges in his daily life. So my patent question to kick off the podcast is, what's your definition of courage? And if you have any role models while growing up, do let us know about that.
Okay. I guess for me, my role model for courage is Sri Chinmoy. He had the courage to come to the West and to manifest his own inner dictates. And to me, courage is having no fear. Trishul means to have courage. My spiritual name, Trishul, means to have courage. And I always believe you have to have the courage, at least to try. So to try, to not be complacent, to make progress and move forward movement.
Yeah. That's great. And obviously I belong to India, so we do have a lot of regard for Trishul and its importance for the Hindus. So it's always nice to have someone who understands our religion as well. We know you today and all that fantastic achievements that you've done, but not many listeners might know about your childhood, about your growing up days. So why didn't you take us down back memory lane, early growing days in Hamilton, Ontario? What's the cutest and the sweetest thing you remember about you as a kid? Any lasting memories, any incident which stays with you? Anything that kind of triggered or give you a hint that you would become the ultramarathoner that you are today?
Well, I didn't think I was going to become an ultramarathoner. But I did love sports.
Okay.
And I was always playing team sports. High school, on the street with my friends. And I played a lot of street hockey, ice hockey, baseball, Little League football. So I was involved with Little League sports that were in Canada. And I played them for hours and hours and hours. And that's where I found my happy place, was sports. And regardless of what was around me, I was just very happy to be involved with sports.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned a lot of team sports, but when did running happen to you? You've done about 46,000 miles. What is the first and earliest memory you have about running as a sport? And maybe the first event, because first events are always memorable. I remember my first half marathon, so I'm sure you remember your first run as well. And how did it all turn out?
Well, that's an easy question to answer. Okay. So my first memory as a long distance runner was probably in high school. I wanted to keep fit. I always was being involved in sports, that enters the consciousness. So my first running experience was doing a track race. I came dead last, but that didn't deter me.
Yeah.
I just like the art of motion, and I found joy and satisfaction with just training. And so I trained for races, and I started with I saw advertisements for 5-mile races or 8K races or 10K races. And I said, I want to be a part of that. So I was intrigued on how I could do in these races. So what fascinated me with running wasn't the training, but the races themselves, and to see how far and fast I could go.
And, you mentioned you have spirituality, and unlike many other people, for you, the spiritual journey started way long back. I think it was in 1977 that you moved to New York and embraced meditation as a practice. How has spirituality or meditation been a significant part of both your life and your running?
Since a boy, I was always interested in the deeper parts of myself, self-discovery. So it goes back to my, I was always curious to see who I am and what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah.
So, spirituality, which is more important to me than just religion. Religion is the practice where, it's kind of religion is a way to bring people together, where spirituality is more an individual pursuit. And I was, in 1977, I came to New York because I heard of a guru named Sri Chinmoy, and I
Right.
found that his meditation practice resonated with me and his spiritual practice. And when I started meditating, I found a whole inner world which made me very content and happy.
But could you go much deeper into this, Trishul? Like, when I started running and I was not meditating when I was running, and my father was an avid meditator, and he used to literally chase me that, hey, they'll try and meditate, try and meditate. Then I would just to ward off his persuasion, I would tell him, no, running is my meditation. But I think it was at least 6 to 8 months after his death, I really embraced meditation. And once I actually realized meditation as a practice, I stopped saying that running is my meditation. What's been your journey in terms of being able to identify advantages of meditation and how it applies to running? If you could cite any specific incidents which kind of helped you realize that how meditation had actually impacted your running.
Okay, so in many of these races, they're like spiritual journeys to me. So these are great distances that I do. And the longer the race, the more spiritual the journey becomes. And so for me, meditation, it would bring a stillness to me. And it brings a balance. I do these extreme distances are so extreme that I need to find balance. So meditation centers me. And meditation brings a balance to me. And my spiritual, and there's different types of meditations that I use. So, whether it's deep breathing, which calms me or centers me, or which is pranayama, which is the art of breath, or chanting. Many times in these races, I chant, or I listen to music, which is like a meditation to me. And so it brings me a strength. I just find that meditation brings a positive energy. It enters into me. And when you meditate, you are still your mind so you can be receptive to receive what the universe has to offer. So I take whatever the universe gives me, and I take that energy and apply it to my running. Now, how does that apply to the running? So let's say in these great distances, for example, I was doing a 2,700 mile race, which is over a 4,000 kilometer race. And I got shin splints because of the nature of the course, and I was just the hardness of the surface.
Yeah.
So I said, how am I going to get through these shin splints? And so I kind of went inside myself through drawing upon my own meditation. I meditated as I was moving forward, a moving meditation. And what came to me was I could take this pain that was in my shins and force it into Mother Earth. So it just gave me the strength and fortitude. And I was able to do that. It took a long time, but I was able to do that. It gave me the strength and fortitude. Meditation gives me the strength and fortitude to move forward. It just gives me a strength of character.
You know what? The way I have noticed different people, including myself, encounter different challenges in running, right? The first one is why, right? Why am I running, right? Why am I waking up 4 o'clock with crazy dogs chasing me? Everyone is sleeping. Why am I the only one who's running? That's first. The second one is encountering pain which is natural in nature, where your legs are hurting. You might not have an injury. And then you have pain because of an injury, where you fell, you tripped, you had an injury, and you still decided to continue, right? And the third is the competitive spirit, right? Which makes you go faster, which makes you go after PB, after PB, after PB. That competitive spirit comes in, right? People around you are egging you to move faster. Could you narrate any specific races where you were encountering such situations and your spiritual realm or your meditation really helped you?
Well, meditation, it gave me the fire. You know what it is? Meditation gives me the fire. So meditation brings an energy to me. It gives me the fire to do whatever I want to do. So in my races, whatever goal I set, it's that in that stillness, I find the fire. It gives me a fire like, Shiva's about the fire. Meditation brings me into that fire. It seems to be, and that fire to me is energy. And so whatever, if I have an injury, or generally I don't get injuries, maybe that's the blessing, I can do these things. So, but whatever hurdles I have, I take the positive energy of my meditations, and
Mm-hmm.
very tangible to me. And I put it in, it kind of goes into my mind, and I try to find a way to overcome these hurdles. So
Okay.
regardless of what the hurdle is, I believe I can overcome any hurdle, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. Give me enough time and I will overcome it. So the meditation gives me the fire and desire, gives me my aspiration. Meditation transforms me into the person who I am and want to be. Am I answering your questions? I hope I am.
Yeah. No. I think you've done that right, because we generally tend to have a sense of disbelief, right? While many times we are running for a target which is known to us, but most of the time we are also trying to exceed what we have done, right? If I've done a 40K, then I'm attempting a 60K for the first time. I'm attempting a 80K for the first time. So there's a realm of unknown where, doubts tend to creep in, right? Okay, I've never been in that position before. How am I going to treat? And I remember when I exceeded my 21K distance for the very first time, I was actually doing a 24K trail run.
Right,
And I had a friend running with me, and we both looked at each other because we never realized when 21.1 came and went away. And we are like, hey, we are doing fine. I don't know why we restricted ourselves to a half marathon so far when we had extra energy reserved and we could go to a 24. And of course, then later on it proved that we could go beyond. And this sense of self doubt purely comes because of the realm of unknown, because we never done it. So
right.
we tend to believe that, oh, we will not be able to do that. And it's not just distance, right? But something which requires audacious physical strength, like lifting a heavy weight. Till you don't do it, you will never know what you've done that. So I think for me, that uplift comes in terms of not undermining myself. Then any goal is achievable. But if I undermine myself, then no goal is achievable, in fact, right? So it works that way. The other thing which is extremely Indian about you is not just your name, but the dog that you have, Dharma.
Yes.
And there's a beautiful story about it. Why don't you narrate to us in terms of how did you end up encountering Dharma, and what was that fantastic distance that he gave you company for?
Okay, so the story of my Dharma dog, first of all, I want to say coming to this earth was all worth it. We come from the soul's world and I came to this earth. So his path and my path could come together. So just
Can
being
we? Yeah.
Dharma was one of the
Mhm.
greatest honors and privileges to have. Now, my
Mhm.
dog Dharma I was doing a 1,300-mile race, which is about a 2,000-kilometer race.
Wow.
And appears out of nowhere this stray dog. And he started to follow. And so I'm going around. He smelled this runner and that runner, but he decided I am the one that he would like to follow. So Dharma followed me mile after mile after mile. And so I saw that he was, looking like he was getting hungry. So I gave him a little bit of food. I
I
wanted
was about to ask you, did you take care of his nutrition?
Of course I did. I'm a big, big dog lover. So I gave him some food. I gave him some water. And then he latched onto me more. And, as the miles went on, he started licking his paws. And I said, well, look, all our feet are sore. He just kept coming with me lap after lap after lap. And when
Hmm.
he reached 100, I couldn't believe it, but he went through the day, the night. I sat down. He waited for me. He sat. So whatever I did, he did. He thought, I smelled good or something, or I smelled bad. I don't know. But he stuck to me and he bonded with me and he created a friendship. And I could feel that it was very tangible. And so at 100 miles, he looked started to limp. I picked him up and he fell asleep right into my arms. I mean, he went,
Oh.
yeah, I just picked the dog. He was, maybe 6 months old. He was a mixed shepherd. And so I had my crew take care of him. And I think they brought him, I'm a vegan vegetarian, but they brought him some hamburger and he was happy as a lark. And I took him home and we
Okay.
accepted him as a family member. Now, where is the story of Dharma? Dharma is in Mahabharata, Indian Mahabharata, and it's the story of Dharma where the Pandava brothers went up the mountain. They were
Himalayas. Yeah.
in the Himalayas. There was Arjuna, Satyaki, Bhima, and one by one, each succumbed to the elements. The last one was Yudhishthira. And
Hmm.
Yudhishthira saw this dog following them right from the beginning. And he
Hmm.
noticed to it, And in the end, this is my understanding, in the end, he admired the loyalty, the devotion, and the love that this dog had for their party. And so then I believe that some cosmic God came down to Yudhishthira and said, we're going to let you physically come into heaven. We've never allowed this before, nor will we allow it again. But, they said, are you ready to come? He said, yes, the dog and I are ready to come. But they said, no, you can't bring the dog. And Yudhishthira says, then I don't want to go into your heaven. This dog had such devotion and love and loyalty to me. This is heaven. So Dharma did the same thing. So we called him Dharma. And also Dharma means one's way in life. I think in Buddhism, one's way in life, one's own truth, one's way one follows life. And, Dharma showed that what loyalty was about with me. He showed me what friendship was about. He showed me what devotion was about. And to this day, he was a great teacher. To me, Dharma was not a dog. He was my teacher. And he taught me friendship, loyalty, love, and to have oneness with everyone. So, it's like in running, if your crew is there for you, you are there for your crew. And, they're part of the journey. So that's how it relates to running. So Dharma, it's true. This dog went 100 miles with me. And then I entered him into a 7-day race. And I was his crew member. And he covered about 200K. No, maybe he did 300K in the 7-day race. And when he sat down, I sat down. So he had a number on him, number 4. And the dog was in this race. And he beat a number of runners. And what was very interesting, he got bored at the end. And he was tired of breaking sticks. And he was, I had a ball. We went the opposite way on the course. But it didn't. We had enough. It showed to me that he was loyal to me and I wanted to be loyal to him. So devotion and loyalty is important. So this is what Dharma taught me.
But tell you what, I have come across thousands of runners. I have never seen anyone having dog running with him and then you being a crew for the dog as well. I mean, for Dharma, I would not call him a dog. But one thing I missed asking you, did you always have a pet? Were you friendly with dogs even before you met Dharma? Or was it the very first instance for you to be managing a pet?
When growing up, I did not have a dog. I wanted a dog. My mother said no, and so of course, when they say no, I wanted one inwardly. So by that inner aspiration eventually manifest and the dog appeared. Right. But no, I had maybe a guinea pig. I had a fish, not a dog. And if you think about it, the name dog, what is it backwards? God. So,
yes, true.
Yes. And so, to me, dog, God, go hand in hand, there's dog, there's God,
Yes, very true, very true.
Both don't have any bad bones.
But you might want to check, can Dharma go into the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest distance run?
Yes, Dharma did make the newspapers, and he made, it was a record, actually, what Dharma did in the 7-day race. It was a record. So the dog covered, I think, 196 miles, over 300K. So it was recorded as a record and showed what was possible. And dogs also, the Huskies in Canada, they go great distances. Dogs can cover great distances. So they're great features on what's possible.
Now, at your phenomenal age, you don't only run ultramarathons, you actually win them, right? I think it was in 1988 where you won the Notchview Ultra. You came number 1, right? You won the race.
I want to say that at 68, I won a 3-day race. So in 1985, in the multi-day arena, I won a 5-day race with 390 miles. And then 40 years later, in 2025, I won a 3-day race with 194 miles. So, age is not, to me, age is not, there's no limit. I still think I'm in the open division. Of course, I wouldn't do age groups, but I don't have interest in age groups. I want to see how I place against men that are 40, 30 years younger than me. They might have a little more speed than me, but I have my experience and determination. And, if they're going to beat me, I'm going to make them work. If they're really really want to beat me, I'm going to make them hurt because I'm going to stay out there. So I'm still very competitive,
Yeah.
competitive in a good sense,
Yeah. So a lot of Indians attribute the people from the West being far more athletic, far more strong, is because they eat meat. And you being a vegetarian and even a vegan, what does a typical diet look like for you when you're preparing for an ultra marathon? If you could just walk us through in terms of what are your sources of all the nutrients, and plus, of course, during the race, how do you equip yourself? What are the during race nutrients for you like?
Okay, so I take this thing called a LAR bar, which is fruits and nuts. It's something that we could buy here in America. My wife is my incredible vegan chef. And so she prepares sandwiches for me. I like real food. There's a lot of runners use goos and different liquid types of, I call it nonsense. I like real food because real food has real food energy. In those sandwiches would be a vegan cheese with spinach and a wheat-free bread and an olive bread, actually. So, and it just seems to give me the energy that I need. And being a vegan, I get enough protein from the vegetables that I eat. And I'm no aware. I've covered over 50,000 ultramarathon racing miles or 80,000 ultramarathon racing kilometers. And to tell you the truth, I have more energy by the diet I have now than when I was a vegetarian and eating dairy. So I get the protein from the fruits and vegetables. I'm also adapted to it. And, it's like I can still win the races with the diet that I have. And as I said, I make sure that sometimes my wife makes me smoothies. If I'm doing these long races, smoothies, and, to feed my adrenals, let's say, for example, celery and dates, combination of that. And, I also use ginger and turmeric as an anti-inflammatory. I grate it into water. To me, doing these great distances is a science. And, I try to eat as nutritionally great foods as I can. Lentils and grains also, they seem to sustain me.
And I believe the rumor has it that you're very unpopular in Canada because you've broken a mind-boggling 110 ultramarathon records in Canada. You don't allow anyone to have any record. It seems like that.
Come on!
No, but I'm sure, having broken so many records, at some point of time, you might not even bother whether you're breaking a record. You would just go and run and enjoy. And then later someone will come and tell you that you broke a new record, right? And we all have a few memorable runs. So any particular record-breaking run which was relatively more difficult for you, or something which stayed with you from a memory perspective?
The 5,000K race, the 3,100-mile race, all those records. It's such a great distance, the longest certified race in the world. Not everybody can do that. And I was able to be the first Canadian to do 5,000K, or, 40 years before that, the 1,000-mile race. They're all important to me. But I would say my 6-day best of 866K, my 1,000-mile race under 2 weeks, and then my 3,100-mile race, averaging almost 100K a day. And to do it day after day after day means a lot to me. But the record I'm most proud of, for example, is not just one event. It's a bunch of races that, for example, I did over 650K for the 6-day race 30 times. And not many men have done that. I don't think of anyone who has ever done that, to do, 600K, 30, 40 times. So it's my cumulative amount of races that I do that gives me joy, that I'm very proud of. But as far as an individual race goes, I'm very proud of my 6-day total, my 1,000K total, my 1,000-mile total. And to be the first, to me, more important is I was the first to show that it could be done. Wow. It's not so much about the standard itself, but showing that everyone can go to the standard. I don't consider myself an extraordinary talent. I'm just a 3-hour marathon, But I know the truth.
When you say 3-hour marathon, people would give an arm and leg to even get to a 3-hour marathon.
Well, I'm a 3-hour marathoner, actually 3:02:06. from 1979. I did many marathons just under 3:10. But bottom line is that, to me, I want to show that what is possible. Everyone can do it, I just consider myself a normal or maybe above, just average runner, but just a bit above that, which gets great joy from his running. And I feel that, if I can do it, anyone can do it. That's my attitude.
So a couple of questions follow up. One is on the food part, right? So some of the naive, normal human being runners tend to get very nervous if their nutrition is not around, or they forgot to take along their gels, or, they don't find their choice of food in the aid stations and all that, right? Are you very particular about having your requisite nutrition during these multi-day runs? Or are you okay? It doesn't matter to you. You pick up anything. You're very adjusting. Like, what works for you?
What works for me is I have my own food there, so I don't rely on what the race has. This is my problem with races, is they have a ton of junk food. To me, I don't even look at it. I bring my stash of food, I put in my cooler, and I take care of myself. I've done that for years and years. To me, nutrition is everything. I'm a racing car, and you got to put good fuel into that racing car to perform. If you put crappy fuel in it, it's not going to perform to its optimum ability. My wife cooks incredibly well, good food. I'm very, very health oriented. I want to be a healthy individual out there so I can have a long career. You can have a fit individual, but we're all fit individuals. But are they a healthy individual to continue for a long period of time? So I bring my own food, whether it's sandwiches or whether it's filtered water or, smoothies, whatever I bring. I don't know any race. And if they have food that, let's say, oranges or bananas, then I'll use food. I don't like using other race food. I use my own stuff. Every runner can bring their own stuff, if they choose to.
Right. And now my next question is going to put you on the spot. You're the president of GOMU, right? The Global Organization for Multi-Day Ultramarathoners. Right. So you get the choice. You don't allow that junk food in the races that you organize. Does that work that way?
Yes, I try to get the race. This is where I overlook, and I speak to the race directors, and I tell them, you got to put a good product out there. And so I make sure that all runners are catered to, not just the meat-eating runners. I want to make sure there's vegan food out there, there's a vegetarian food, and it's important that the GOMU races have good nutritional food, and these race directors, whether in Italy, they give them a list and they comply. And my wife also gives a list. Karen gives a list. This is the foods that we would like to have at the race. And I also make sure there's gluten-free food there too. So because some people have allergies, so we want to have a variety of food there so the runners have choices. These are world championships. I want the runners to perform at the best of these are the best runners in the world. I want them to perform to the best of their abilities. So the records that they're chasing, it would make it a lot easier.
Right. So does the overall cost of the race go up because you're providing so much of variety of food, or you're able to manage the cost aspect?
No, this stuff isn't expensive. In fact, junk food is more expensive than regular food. Buying potato chips is more expensive than eating a banana, which is more nutritional,
True.
So I think that these race directors spend too much money on the junk food and not enough on good food. The cost, if they eat good nutritional food, the cost will be about the same. It doesn't go up. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I think they end up providing junk food because they're able to get it at a good price and a good deal from the suppliers or the brand directly. And they just dump it on the runners like, this is it. Take it or leave it.
Not at my GOMU championships. I'm making sure that all the runners, if they come to a GOMU championship, I want a quality event. So everything has to be at the highest standard, and that includes food. It's just like if it costs more, then it costs more. The runners are willing to pay if they know they're getting a good product.
The other question which comes to my mind, especially when we talk about these multi-day events, is sleep. Are you running non-stop? Are you taking breaks for sleeping? How long are those breaks? Are they sufficient? Are you comfortable when you sleep? Tell us about it.
Okay, so I'm a competitive person. So when you snooze, you lose. Meaning, I do sleep deprivation. A lot of runners might run faster than me and they push, and so they're extra tired, so they sleep. Me, I go a little bit slower, but I'll go at a consistent, comfortable pace. But I go there for like a 100-mile race, for example. I don't take a break. I just basically go 100 miles straight. And if it takes me 30 hours, 29 hours, then it takes me that. But no, sleep deprivation and what keeps me going? That's the question. Well, yeah, meditation works. But to tell you the truth, a little bit of caffeine. I don't take ever caffeine, but I do drink caffeine in these races. And
Okay.
yeah, so I use things that will keep me awake. And I listen to music. And I also know my eye is on the prize and I'm hungry to get the results what I'm after. Whatever it takes to get me through the night, I do.
And these 6-day races and all?
Yeah, well, there's a beginning, middle, and end. And so these races are going to end. They're not going to go on forever. So basically, I might be tired, but I know there's going to be an ending. So I just endure. These are endurance events.
So you're not sleeping for all 6 days?
Okay,
No
yes,
sleep.
I do. Basically, these days I get 5 hours of sleep in 6 nights. So the first night I can't sleep because I'm kind of wired.
Total 5 hours in those 6 nights, you totally sleep for 5 hours.
Yeah, that's it. So basically the first night I don't sleep. The second, third, fourth, about an hour a day. So I only get about an hour of sleep. And I break it up into half an hour, 20 minutes. Sometimes it's 10 minutes and I'm gone. So when I'm ready to sleep, I'm able to fall right over. My wife times it and wakes me up in 10 minutes. It's not fun getting up, but I get up and I look at my discipline that I created for myself and say, well, I have to go another 10 hours before I can take another break. So I plan my breaks and I'm disciplined in going with those breaks unless I'm so exhausted. I'm never really that exhausted, and I'm accustomed over 40 years of the sleep deprivation. It's not torture for me. Some people just can't do it. I seem to be able to do it. And I marvel at the backyards where these guys are only getting, 3-4 minutes every hour they take it, and they can do it for 5-6 days. So if they can do it, I can do it. Or they look at me saying, if he can do these incredible amounts of sleep deprivation, maybe we can try too. So you don't need much sleep, and if you're running hard, all you truly need is 45 minutes, which is a full REM. It's for the full REM.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me one thing, Trishul, when you're organizing, how do you configure the optimal time which a runner would need? Because you're getting variety of runners. You mentioned some run fast and want to sleep, some run slow. So when you're configuring, let's say, distance of, 200 miles, how do you configure what's the optimum time which you would like to give to the contestants to finish that 200-mile in? I'm sure there would be a logical cutoff, right? Because you can't keep the 8 stations open forever. So what's the back calculation like? What you have a specific pace in mind, and then you say if you go by this pace and you don't sleep, then you will finish it in this much time. So that's the cutoff time. Is that the way it works, or there is more maths to it?
Okay, so there are let's say there are time limits for, most definitely there are time limits for these races. And in these races, let's say it's a 30-hour race, they give you 30 hours and that's it. It's over. So basically these type of races that I do is go as you please. So when I
choose your strategy,
I choose the strategy that works for me, and I stick to that strategy. Whether I might alter it a little bit, but I keep to my strategy. And people know that it brings a lot of people fear. They know they're going against me in these competitions. They know I'm not going to sleep much. And so they have to adjust their strategies to go against my strategies. But in races themselves, yes, there are time limits, there are cutoffs, and depends on, you have to alter it. You have to pick the race that will suit you. If it's a 100-mile race and they only give you 24 hours, then you don't enter. You just pick the race that will give you the best possible way to finish it. I'm of the philosophy now, I run to complete rather than compete. So, you figure out.
Good one. Run to complete, then complete.
The main thing is you figure a strategy to get you to the finish line. To me, the finish line is really important, but also what is important, it's not just the finish line, it's the journey and the company, and enjoying the company of others. That's what ultramarathon is.
But in these long runs, I'm sure for hours together, you might not even get some company, right? You're all by yourself.
Sometimes you're by yourself. So what I do, I listen to music, or if I'm out on the trails in the middle of the night, I hear the owls. I have friends out there. My friends are like the owls and the birds. And yeah, I'm not alone. I'm never alone. I always feel like I have the company of the universe around me.
But I'm sure you have your secret hacks as well, how to handle exhaustion and sheer stress, right? I think there was some cold water therapy that you'd used. Why don't you tell us about that?
Okay, so what keeps me awake? Deep breathing. I always try to deep breathe. I listen to music and enjoy my music. I keep my mind occupied, so I'm not stressed out. So one thing I listen to that gives me energy is music. And I love all sorts of music from all over, whether it's South African music or I listen to American rock and roll, whatever gives me energy at that time. And I like pop music. So music keeps me alive. Deep breathing. I recommend, using some deep breathing, positive energy. And if you're really, really tired out there, you want to talk to others. As soon as I try to speed up my pace so I can find another runner, and then we have nice conversations. And I always say, I pivot out of my own misery by listening to somebody else's story. Everyone has a story, and I always want to hear about somebody else's story. And everybody wants their story to be heard. So, and I know this. So I don't want to give them my story. I want to hear their story. And so they're jabbering, and I'm listening to it, and it keeps me alive. It's like an outer stimuli, hearing people's stories.
Yeah. You mentioned about music, but on these long runs, does your headphone battery last that long? Does your phone battery last that long? Do you keep multiple headsets? How do you manage music?
I have multiple digital. So I'm going on, let's say, on a 1 mile loop, and the battery starts to get low. Then I switch on to another one. I even have from 40 years ago, this is one of my favorite things. It blows people's mind, a Walkman. So I have my Walkman from 40 years ago. I have cassettes that my wife made of all my favorite music from the 1980s. I only save it for these races, and I put it on. And some people ask, what in the heck is that you I said, this is a Walkman.
It's been 2 decades. I never heard the word Walkman, and you are actually using it.
Oh, I'm absolutely using it with some of my favorite music, and I show it to people, and some people say, what is that? And I said, it's a Walkman. This is the grandfather of the digital, and so I have my Walkmans. I have all sorts of charging systems, I make sure I just don't bring one device and it runs out. So I have unlimited amounts of music, and I enjoy music. Music makes me happy. It elevates my consciousness. If you have the right music, it puts you in a good mood. So the key to these races, it's not misery, it's finding joy. And I find joy in music.
You mentioned you met your wife, Karen, in 1985 World Championship, and you had a phenomenal bond ever since. Tell us a bit more about her. What are the aspects which you love about her? Some incidents which might have stayed with you in terms of being with her. Anything that you'd like to narrate?
Yes, she's my best friend and partner and companion. Everything that's good in this world is Karen. It's like she represents to me all the goodness, and I love the Shakti power that's in her. Everything that she does, everything that she focuses on, she gives 100%. So she's a great example for me to always focus and to give 100%. She shows me what a good partnership is. She teaches me. She's a great teacher to me. And she also is, she helps me in these races and prepares for me, whether it's food or waking me up if I doze off in a chair. And so Karen is, and plus we have very common interests in things. So it's great to have somebody who's your soulmate. And I feel she's my soulmate. And she's a great athlete. everything that she does, she touches is golden. So she's a great athlete, or she's a great race walker, a great hiker. I always say this about my wife, and I tell everybody this. I could be with her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 1,000 years and never get tired of her. I feel sorry for her. You know, I wouldn't want that curse for her, because to be with me, man, and my intensity, oh my God, that's pure agony. So, I know that she's going to get being with me, she's going to definitely get sainthood in the end.
So, of course, she's been a crew for you in many races. Have you been a crew for her in her races as well?
Yes, I have. She's done ultra marathons, and of course, we've run together. I remember we did a race in the Czech Republic, and it was a marathon a day for 10 straight days. And I was with her, running with her and making sure she got food. So yes, she's a great athlete. She's done ultra marathons. She's won ultra marathons. And so I've crewed for her, and she's a great athlete, and I always say she's my better half, so it's truly, I love who she is and what she does, and I wish every man could have a Karen in their life.
Beautiful. I hope so too as well. The other important element in ultramarathons is, of course, injuries, right? And 300 plus ultramarathons, have you remained injury free? What's your secret to fitness?
Okay. Training is training and racing is racing. So when I train, I work with my body. I don't have such intensity that some of these runners they put it all, in their training. And when it comes to race day, they have nothing left. I'm quite the opposite. I'll take my time with things. When I race, I race. But when I train, I make sure that I'm getting the benefit of the training. So I make sure I rest, and I make sure I recover. And one of the blessings that I have in my life, I don't get injured. I seem to be pretty sturdy. I'm pretty structurally sound. And I also use chiropractic help, massage. So I incorporate this into my regime of training. So it's not just about putting one foot in front of the other. I make sure that I have a good balanced diet. I make sure that I'm structurally sound through massage and I am a massage therapist, did it for 36 years. So is my wife. She did it for 40 years, so she works on me. I see a chiropractor, and usually this chiropractor is an applied kinesiologist who muscle tests me to find out what balance. And, or acupuncture. So I make sure that I'm in the best possible healthy state. Because doing these races is not just sheer training. It's a being in good, healthy balance. I want to make sure these are extreme, and I want to be balanced in my race. I want to give the best fighting chance so I can finish off what I put my mind to.
Very interesting. That's a glowing tribute. The other aspect is that you also have had experience running with legends like Yanis Koros or Ted Gobbin. Any aspects that you picked up from them, something that remained with you, something that you noticed was different in their approach, and you kind of liked it and said, hey, I could do this as well?
I like their intensity. I like their intensity in training. Koros, when he was in his prime, let's say he's doing 400 meters, guys do 8 times 400 meters. He would do 5 miles of it. He just kept at it. So the intensity and and just the sheer mass amount of mileage that those men put in. Corbin was the father of 200 to 300 mile weeks. He was an Afro-American. He inspired so many people with his mega mileage. So I looked at them, I said, well, what will work for me? So I always had a steady diet of 100-mile weeks, so 10 to 20 miles a day, or 15. I know everybody in India thinks in kilometers, so 15 to maybe 35K a day. I did that. So I'm of the philosophy, you do your homework, you pass the test. These guys did their homework so they could pass the test. And all the great runners, whether it's Corbett or whether it was Kouros, you want to have success, you better put in the hard work. So I'm a believer that you just can't phone it in. You recover from the race, and regardless, you train for the next race. So I knew that I loved their intensity, and I tried to put that into my life. More
Right.
than in my training, I like their intensity. If you're intense in your life, then you're going to be able to get what you're after. You can't just lollygag around. You put intensity, you focus on what you want, and you can get anything you want.
You run about 300 ultramarathons. You want to get to 500 in the next 5 years and maybe up to 1,000. How do you come up with these numbers, Trishul?
Well, okay. I come up with these numbers because I'm a numbers guy. I find out
Were you good in maths in school? You were
I'm
good
very
in.
good at math. And I love creating goals that aren't just so common. So for me, it keeps me motivated. How do I come up? Because that's a way it motivates me to keep going. I'm the type of runner that needs a carrot. So I create a goal that I know I can achieve. And it's like, for example, on the DUV, I have the second most for men, the second most ultramarathon racing miles in history. I think that a Finnish guy named Asprihano Alto, he has the most, and I'm number 2 for the men. And he's my target. Can I try to get what he's achieved?
Have you
Oh,
guys
of
interested?
course, yes. He is one of the people that I truly admire. I mean, he's done 17 times the 3,100 mile race or the 5,000K race, and he's done that all with an average of over 100K a day. So he's just a phenomenal talent. And I just love his lightness of being. He's very light on his feet, and his attitude. He has intensity. He's a good sportsman. He has that great sportsman's vibration. And what I also learned about getting back to Corbett, I admire his great sportsmanship and his love of doing the training, as well as it's about the love of going after what he's after. And, he loved to train to get great results. So I love men that train hard. They party. To party hard, you got to train hard.
You are a big fan of multi-day races and not just North America. You've taken these events to Europe as well. When do you come to India?
Oh, when I'm in India, you have a guy named Arun who there's a few Indians that have come to America.
Yes.
And they do the multi-days. And, I love Indian people. To me, Indian people are of the heart. I love Indian people.
Yeah.
And multi-day running, you got to go into your heart center because you have to love going these great distances.
Right,
and
right.
Indian people have the heart to do anything. They give their heart and soul. And I love the spirituality that India, it just comes out of the pores of the nation. So, it's...
But you're not run in India as of now, have you?
I've never done a race in India, but I think the IAU, which is the governing body, have 50Ks and 100K races. We've had world championships, actually. I think the last 100K world championship was in India. So, it would be great to go to India, Hey, pay my way and I'll come.
Yeah.
Just joking.
Yeah. The other interesting element which is picking up now is barefoot running. What's your thought on barefoot running? Do you think a barefoot runner can run as much as you have run?
No, because I think you need arch support. When you do these great distances and you don't have arch support, like, prefab orthotics or good shoes, and then you're not going to go these great distances because your arches will drop. Remember, your feet are the foundation. And if your foundation is not supported, then you're going to fall apart. And that's with anything. A good foundation and a strong foundation, something that supports this foundation, is necessary. So I'm not a fan of barefoot running at all. It might work for a few, but not for the masses. I believe you have to have a good shoe that's well cushioned to make it comfortable and supportive. So I'm big on supporting of the feet. Otherwise, arches drop, and if they drop, then everything else falls apart. And I've seen it. Barefoot community, they all end up injured. I think the guys that cheered on the barefoot runners were the podiatrists. They made a lot of money on these guys.
Right. But if you see a runner running barefoot, do you tell him, hey, wear shoes or something like that? Or
No,
You
no,
just let
let him discover it himself. Because when he's in pain, he'll decide that maybe this wasn't such a good idea. The best teacher is experience, and you can preach till you're blue in the face, but unless the person experiences the experience, then that's when they make the choice to do what they need to do to correct.
Right, right. That's true. Do you train or coach runners? Do you
Yes,
do
I
you?
do. Every
And
runner every runner I've ever trained has transcended. I'm a great coach. Yes, I train a miler. She's made great progress. Through the years, I've trained many runners, and I give them a training schedule. We find out what works for them. And yes, every runner I've ever coached has succeeded. So, I can take anybody and see what are your goals and, see what is possible. Can they reach that goal? So I see what's possible for each person and a schedule. And if that doesn't work, we find a way. If there's a will, there's a way. I find a way so that they can get the joy of transcendence themselves.
right. And of course, you mentioned you run to complete and not to compete, but you do end up beating people 10, 20, 30 years younger to you. Tell me this. Do you think those guys are not good enough? They're not trained well enough, or they're not putting enough effort? Or do you think you're super duper exceptional?
I don't think I'm super exceptional, but I have determination and the willpower to do the best that I can do. And age is not a limit. What I created first is age is not a limit in my mind. And I compete in the open division, 68. I think I'm still, 35. I still do. I really feel that I'm 35 years old. I don't use the excuse at all. Oh, I'm 68. They're 20, 30, 40 years younger than me. No, I think I'm on equal footing as them. And so I go there, and with the mindset, my mindset says I'm able to compete with these guys. So I have a good mindset. Yes, sometimes they're more talented than me, but I don't care. When they run fast in these events, the longer the event, the better chance I have. So because they're going to take breaks. The equal footing comes when these are long races, 2-day races, 6-day races. I remember this guy was named Sean Gavor, and he was 25 years younger than me. He only beat me by a mile in the end in a 6-day race. And it took him a lot of work. And he knows that I'm not going to stop. And I've gotten the nickname the Terminator because I'll keep going and going. And I won't stop until I get what I'm after. So I don't care. It's like these guys, I want to take a break. I said, okay, go take a break. Good for you. I'm not stopping. And I've had runners say that, let's call it a truce. I said, the hell with you. No, there's no truth. And then I tell them, you want to beat me? I have no problem with that. I'm going to make you hurt, so which means that I'm going to put all my best energy forward, and I'll be the first to congratulate you. And most runners appreciate that because I'm going to force them to keep moving forward. That's just who I am. I just want to move forward.
But hypothetically speaking, if you coach, let's say, a 30-year-old runner, and you kind of totally prepared him physically and mentally to do well, and you're running alongside, who's going to win?
Well,
that's a tough one, Trishul. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I'll tell you the truth.
You might ask Yudhishthir Dharma.
Yeah, I'm okay if a person comes ahead of me, and I'll cheer them on and I'll applaud them. It's not that I'm competing against others so much as I like to run with people rather than against them. I'll always approach, even in these races, I'll run with you. And it's not, if somebody who's 30 years old and I'm 68, of course they're going to come ahead of me. But, I'm going to keep doing what I do because it gives me joy. And I think that that's the most important thing. I'm not going to stop because they're ahead of me. I'm going to stop because that's when I want. When I'm ready to stop, I'll stop. I set my own standards and I set my own goals and I strive for those goals, and regardless of what somebody else does. So that's the truth, the truth of the matter. I don't care.
I think that's pretty well said, because end of the day, whether there are 10 people competing or there are 100 people, whether it's your student or it's someone you don't know, ultimately you're competing more with yourself than anything else, right? And if
So it's,
your physical capacity allows you to win, you win. If it doesn't allow you to win, doesn't allow you to win. I don't think it can make a big difference in terms of whom did you beat or whom did you lose to.
bingo, you got it. That's, you said it right there. To me,
Yeah,
ultimately, right from the beginning, when I
yeah,
started running, I wanted to see how I could do me against myself,
yeah,
because ultimately you can't, in these long races, you can't control what somebody else does anyway. I can only do what I can do. And if I can run with you, great. If I can't run with you, okay, maybe I'll be able to run with you later, in the
yeah,
race.
yeah.
But
That's true.
bottom line, I said, I'm just very goal oriented. I set a goal and I do what I need to do nutritionally, physically, mentally, emotionally to get what I'm after, and
Right,
try to reach the goal.
right. Any inspiring books that you recommend you have read?
Oh yes, there's many running books or just books
Yeah.
in general.
Either ways, both maybe.
Nutritionally, I like reading about nutrition. So Anthony William, I recommend this author who is called he has a psychic way of looking at things. And
Okay.
so I like spiritual books. I recommend all Hindus to read the Bhagavad Gita
Yes, of
simply
course.
because uh, there's great stories in there.
Yeah.
I think on the running level, In Search of Al Howie was a great book by my friend Jared Beasley. I always say running helps you physically to expand, to transcend. Books are the same, it expands your mind. So, the more you can read, the more knowledge you have. And so,
Hmm.
great books, I would think. Nutrition. I'm into nutrition, so anything by Anthony William. He does podcasts,
Okay.
and that's what I think. So Anthony William, how's that?
Got it. Any parting message, any slogan, any quote that you cite or quote or
Yes, I'm basically be here now, which was from Ram Dass. I love that because that means you're being in the present. And when I
yeah,
did the 3,100-mile race, which is such a long race, I
yeah.
learned to be in the moment. We talked about Dharma, and Dharma was what he taught me was he's always present in the moment.
Hmm.
So I think the parting words, be here now, and another parting message, just do it. Nike had the best slogan there. Just do it. I mean, don't think about it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. Focus on what you have to do and just do it. And be present. Be here now.
Wow. That's a great way to end a hugely phenomenal and extremely thought-provoking discussion. And I'm totally enamored by the achievements that you've done. And what I like the best is that you're not stopping anytime soon.
Oh no! To leave you with this, this is what I'm really truly after. I started ultramarathons at age 21. I know I'm going to live into my late 90s. I just know that. You
Wow.
just know. And I want to go from age 21 to age 91 in a 70 years span. How many ultramarathons can I cover? And how many ultramarathon racing kilometers can I cover? And in those 70 years, no one has ever done that before, had an ultramarathon racing career. And that's important to me, the whole
Yeah.
career for 70 years. So right now I'm at year 68. So I still got another, 22, 23 years. So,
Yeah.
it's, life is
Long
a
way.
long way to go. I'm only 68. So,
You're 68 years young.
yes, I'm not 68 years old, 68 years young. And, I ask everyone, don't ever think you're old, but think you're young.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. You covered all continents. Any continent left out? Any particular country other than India which is left out, which
You
you
know,
had gone to? And
I would love to race in Japan or China, but
oh, you're not been to Japan? Japan is like pinnacle of running.
yes, Japan, especially the Japanese monks. What I'm interested in is
Yes,
the
yes,
marathon monks of Japan. They originally inspired me. They did a
yeah,
marathon a day for 1,000 days, and then
that's right.
and then
Around the mountain, non-stop.
yes, correct. And they would visit all the temples and do their
Yeah,
prayers and meditations, and
yeah,
then throughout the day. And plus, then they did that 9-day fast where they
Yeah.
can't drink water, and they found it a great purifying act. So I would like to meet one of these marathon monks and just, and I admire them, the marathon monks in Japan, but most of my races are in the United States. I'm happy here, and we put on in the United States great races, and it's like I want to go where there's good races. So if there's a good race and I have the means to get there, I'll be there. I'll never shy away from any competition or any race, and if it resonates with me.
No, I hope that your spirit not just remains the same, but it goes up and you achieve many more targets and many more miles, and you go to at least 1,000 ultra marathons, not 500.
Right. One step at a time. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. So one step at a time. And we'll see in that 70-year span that how many I eventually do. It's just, I don't want to make it just numbers. So whether it's 1,000, 900, 800, whatever it may be, each one's a journey, and I want to enjoy each journey. So far I'm coming up to my 400th, actually almost my 400th ultramarathon race completion. And I look back and I said, there have been 398 great journeys. So I still want to do more and more and more journeys. I'm hungry for the journey.
Wow, great. Thank you very much, Trishul. It was a pleasure, and thanks a lot for your time.
All peace and love to you, and Shanti, my friend.
Thank you. Namaste.